You fall in love. Then comes the difficult task of planning the perfect wedding. Lifting the veil, an inside look at wedding planning. And here's your host, Wedding Entertainment Director, Larry Williams.
Hello, and welcome once again. Today I'm coming to you from Jacob's Berry Farm, a beautiful family-owned and operated, very rustic wedding venue located here at Gardnerville, Nevada. You know, barn weddings are super big all across the United States, and especially here in northern Nevada. And this is one of the finest run facilities you will find. Check it out sometime. Today I'm going to lift the veil on vendor interviews. You know, vendor interviews is one of the most important aspects of event planning. There's no getting away from it. There's no making it super easy and it all just falls into place. You got to do your homework. You got to do your research. We talked about that in some of the prior episodes. But today we're going to look at the vendor interview process and how to make it so where you'll get more out of it and you'll be able to make that selection a whole lot easier. When you're interviewing vendors, whether in person or on the telephone, it's a real get to know each other process. And when it's right, you just know it. It's kind of like finding that life partner. In fact, you could say that choosing a wedding professional for your wedding is as important as choosing a life partner in your marriage. Fortunately, you don't have to live with that wedding vendor the rest of your life, but you will have to live with the memories. And here's an interesting way to look at it. Think about this. You're planning a wedding. You're the bride and groom, and you are putting together a wedding for yourself in your honor. You're planning this. You're inviting all your family and friends to join you, and you want to show them a great time. If it goes bad, will that reflect poorly on you? Yeah, it probably will. However, your family and friends are far more forgiving than people you don't know. They are more forgiving. However, nobody wants to throw a bad wedding. You're throwing a party in your honor, so why not make it a great one? Choose great vendors who are going to make the experience for those guests, the party thrown in your honor, to make it a great one. Now, to address this topic properly, I probably need a whole hour show to do it. I'm going to do all I can in about 10 minutes, all right? So the first point I want to make is this. When you contact a vendor by email, by social media, or by text, I want you to only think of it as a first point of contact, an introduction, an opportunity to ask availability and to learn more information. Here's the thing, don't ask about pricing. After the break, I'll tell you why.
If you're planning an upcoming wedding, consider this. The Reno Tahoe DJ Company is a nationally recognized provider of first-class wedding entertainment. Professional, experienced, appropriate. Expect the finest in quality from the first consultation to the final dance.
The Reno Tahoe DJ Company, referred by more wedding professionals and preferred by more brides. Visit renodj.com. Welcome back. You know, it's very common to phone up a wedding vendor, call them up and say, how much do you charge? Here's the thing, they can't always answer that, and they certainly can't get all the detail they need by email or social media on all that is involved. Let's break this down. There are products and there are services. Now, if you're looking for a 45-inch Samsung TV, flat screen, you can call Best Buy, find out how much it is. You could ask, do you have it in stock? That's availability. You can call Costco and the same thing to find out the price and find out the availability. Really easy to do on mass-produced products. But there's very little that is mass-produced in the wedding industry. In fact, most wedding vendors, whether they do products or services, those products and services are very specialized and custom tailored to exactly what you need. They're not mass produced in a factory. Now for products, you've got things like the wedding dress. Would you call a wedding dress supply company or bridal shop and ask them, how much do you charge for a wedding dress? It's a loaded question. They're going to say, well, it all depends what you need. We got wedding dresses from $200 up to $20,000. You wouldn't call a cake maker and say, how much do you charge for a wedding cake? Again, how many tiers would you like it? How fancy and custom do you want it made? How many people is it serving? It's the same thing for table linens and florists as well. Now, on the services side of things, when you call a DJ and say, how much do you charge? Well, we don't know. We have to, it's like going for car repair. Nobody can give you an estimate on car repair until they know what's wrong with the car. We need to find out how many hours you need. We need to find out, are we doing it outdoors and indoors as well? So there are 2 sound systems involved. Are we involved with the wedding ceremony? Is that in a different location? Is there dance floor lighting or this sort of thing? So there's all kinds of things. The same things for photographers and coordinators as well. So many different variables in putting together a price quote. So be prepared when you contact these vendors, and again, you'll find them on email and social media and texting. Make that only a first point of contact. Don't even ask how much they charge. You gotta set up that telephone opportunity or in-person meeting. That's where they will ask you all the specifics on anything, products or services, to get you the information you need. You can't go on price alone because price isn't going to tell you anything. You need to, because there's so many different packages too. That's another aspect of it. There's how many different packages does the wedding vendor have? So the how much do you charge question, again, throw it out the window for now until they learn more about your event. Now think of another thing here, and that is prep time. When you're paying for a coordinator, okay, you're hiring a coordinator. When you're hiring a photographer, when you're hiring a DJ, there is a lot of prep time involved. On the photographer end, there's prep time in the beginning, a little bit to find out, who all he or she is taking pictures of, and setting up the family photographs and that sort of thing, and the people that are going to photograph, and they're making notes and all this. But there's also stuff that they do on the tail end. In fact, most of their prep time or post-production time happens after the wedding. That's when they're going through all those hundreds of photos they took. And listen, here's another thing. Is there going to be a wedding album? Did you ask for a wedding album, or are you just asking for that photographer just to give us all the digital copies of the photos? So if they're putting together a wedding album, there's so much post-production time involved there too. Coordinators, it's the same thing. You know how much time the wedding coordinators put into that 5-hour event. My gosh, they're working dozens and dozens of hours on the front end. Even if you hire a day of coordinator, you might think, oh, day of coordinator, they're just going to show up and do some stuff that day. Oh my gosh, there's still so many things they need to do in the pre-planning of the event, and because they need to know, what flowers did you order, so on that day I can find out if they arrived if they're delivered as ordered. All these things that even a day of coordinator has to do, that is in the pre-planning stages. Same thing with DJs and musicians, planning the music lists and the itinerary and this sort of thing as well. And again, for a DJ or musician, if they're coming to your event, it might be a 4 or 5 hour event, but by the time they dispatch from their place of business, and the travel time and getting there an hour or 2 early for setup, and then they're the last to leave, of course, at the end of the reception, it's a 10-12 hour day for most of those people. So again, how much do you charge? There's a lot of prep time involved, and that's all worked into the price, okay? So get that conversation going by telephone or in person before anything. So only leave social media and email and texting as a first point of contact. Now, another thing that's very important to address with your vendors is business ethics. Now, you don't have to say, are you ethically responsible? Of course, they're all going to say yes, okay? But you can do your due diligence by checking out websites, by looking at those reviews that we talked about in a prior episode, okay? If you do some of that, you'll find out if they have business license, if they have insurance. When you come to private facilities and even corporate facilities to bring your wedding services, a lot of them require that the wedding vendors have business license and liability insurance. If they have employees, they got to have workers' comp insurance as well. It's state law. So you don't want to run into a situation where you're having, Uncle Bob doing it and he can't meet the requirements required by the facility. So business ethics is a super important part of the interview process when you're gathering information. Now, here is the question to ask. The question to ask when you are talking to any vendor about products or service. What sets you apart from other companies? That is so important. I mean, that's going to say it all. Because again, we're talking about that personal connection. You want to know if that person feels right, that yes, I want to do business with them, because you're not doing business with them just for the wedding. You're going to do business with them for the next 9 months leading up to the wedding. So what sets you apart? What makes you different? If they just go through the motions and do what every other vendor in their category does, you know, okay, you're just going to get average, subpar, you know, in some cases subpar, but average service at best. Don't you want people who really are passionate about their business, but they're very happy to tell you the differences of why we think we would be a great match for you? That's super important, okay? And then finally, listen for this. Now, when I say listen, this works two ways. A wedding vendor should listen as much as they talk, because coming from a vendor standpoint, I want to learn all about your dream. You've been planning your wedding for months, maybe years. I want to find out, you know, what it is that you want to create, because you have a vision, and I want to understand that. So great wedding vendors will listen as much as they talk. But here's something you can listen for. Listen for personality and elaboration. Now, obviously, personality is a given. You want to find out if they have a personality that clicks with yours. Again, you're having to live with that vendor, you know, on the phone or personal consultations for many months leading up to your wedding. You want to make sure you click, like I said before. When it feels right, you'll know it. So personality is super important. But what is elaboration? Now, have you ever heard anybody in the sales process or on podcasts say to listen for elaboration? What's it mean to elaborate? Well, let me break it down. If you call somebody, you call a photographer and you ask them, so do you shoot with a digital camera? Yes. Okay, and you want that photographer to elaborate on what kind of equipment they have, or what makes their camera so special, or this sort of thing, that and their process of how they do things. If you call a DJ and you say, do you announce all of the activities and traditions? Yeah, of course. And somebody asked me that question, I'll say yes, because we want to bring your guests together, and we want to make sure that, you know, everybody is involved and ready for that next activity so they could share in the experience. When I say that, you're going to feel my excitement. You're going to say, yeah, that's what I like. So you don't want yes or no answers, or very, you know, quick, to the point, you know, responses from vendors. You want to listen for elaboration. That's where they will detail and explain everything, and then you'll feel so much more comfortable with the vendor you're thinking about selecting. So those are just some tips, and I hope I've broken it down a little bit to make the vendor interview process a whole lot easier, and give you some things to look out for and look for as you're, you know, interviewing these vendors. But again, get on the telephone, get to meet them in person, so you can really feel their excitement and passion, and know if it's a great connection, because you want vendors that you could connect with. So we'll see you next time. And by the way, at our next episode, it's all going to be about navigating a bridal fair. Bridal fairs are a huge part of selecting vendors and interviewing them, and that first point of contact. So join me on the next episode of Lifting the Veil. We're going to talk all about bridal fairs and navigating the bridal fair experience and making it great for you. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.